one of the greatest punishments to give to any human being is to put them in isolation. So, in fact, keeping people in solitary confinement is regarded as torture because a human being really cannot survive without connections to others.
How many different cultures live here? What kind of cultures do you?
We have Chinese,
Yeah?
we have Somalians, we have Ethiopians, we have South Africans, obviously, and we have, did I count Zimbabweans?
No.
Zimbabweans,
Yeah, Zimbabwe.
Malawians, Congolese, Nigerians, Tanzanians.
But do they really
Get along?
Yeah.
Not really.
No?
Not really,
No?
no. But we, what's the word? They tolerate, you know?
Yeah.
Not that we know how to live together, but we tolerate each other.
But that's quite sad that you live here with 35,000 people together and also like a little bit separate.
Yeah, not a little bit, a lot.
Yeah.
We're a lot separated. But the different groups stick with each other. Like if you're Zulu, you stick with your people.
Yeah.
If you're from Malawi, you stick with your people. I think it's understanding that's the biggest problem. We all don't understand each other. We don't understand their way of life, we don't understand where they're coming from, we don't understand anything about them. I think it's the same like...
But why do you don't understand them?
Language is the
It's
biggest
really the
barrier.
language?
It's the language. Auntie!
It's nice how you greet everyone.
Ah.
That's
But I don't know most of their names though.
yeah.
Ahoy, ahoy. I know how to greet in about 6 languages,
Yeah.
which are not like South African languages. I know how to greet in all 11 South African languages.
Yeah.
Then I'm learning I know how to greet in like the language Chichewa from Malawi, Swahili.
Yeah.
I know how to greet in this language from Zimbabwe.
Do you know already how to greet in Dutch?
Not really.
Goedemorgen.
Goedemorgen.
Yeah.
Ah, that's easy.
Now you know 7.
7 languages to greet in as a tool for connection. It's a start, and even though we joke about it, it's a serious matter for my guide Nkeba. What he doesn't know is that connection has been a major theme throughout my life as well. And that it, strangely enough, all started here in one of the townships of South Africa, before I was even born.
Dames en heren, vrienden, familie, klanten, ik zie heel veel hele mooie gezichten. Allemaal hartelijk welkom op deze hele bijzondere dag. Voor ons in ieder geval een hele bijzondere dag, omdat het helemaal in teken staat van verbinding. We hebben allereerst een hele speciale gast hier. Een wereldleider die echt zijn hele leven heeft ingezet om een samenleving, om een land beter te maken. Meneer de Klerk is onder ons, voormalig president Zuid-Afrika. En die gaat met ons eigenlijk zijn persoonlijk verhaal delen. So, Mr. Klerk, please.
Geachte meneer Samhoud, dames en heren, het is gaaf om samen met u hier te wees. And I've been asked to speak about the role that connections played in the transformation of South Africa. The questions I would like to address today are, how did South Africa move from the seemingly hopeless conflict of the middle 80s to the realization of the vision in the poster? Because we have realized that vision. And how did we succeed in building a bright future together?
When I went to South Africa for the first time, it was 1987. And I went to South Africa because I worked for Unilever and I had to do a market research study over there. And one of my objectives was to understand the blacks in Africa, because I was selling textiles for black women. So I had to visit them, and I visited a lot of black people. And on one day they said, if you really want to understand South Africa, you have to come with us to Soweto. And I said, is it not that dangerous? And they said, if you are with us, it's not dangerous. But I was a little bit scared at that time, because at that time I felt really the tension in South Africa, because I was talking with black people and I was invited them to dinner, and they said, we can't go to that restaurant. So I was really struck by that. So I was happy that they invited me to go to Soweto. And I went to Soweto, and there I was seeing this big billboard about together we build a brighter future. Yellow, black, red, people, all together, and all with this message, together we build a brighter future. And I said, what a wonderful message. And then they were saying, yeah, but Salem, this is a message of the apartheid regime. And last week, 12 people were killed below this billboard, black people. And I was really struck by that. The message, a wonderful message, and then at the same time, harsh reality that people got killed. I said to myself, I have to do something. And when I want to change the world also, I have to do something big, because otherwise people are not going to listen to me.
My father's been an activist. Like, he was one of the ANC guys. He wasn't big, but he, like at home as well, like for you to vote, you don't have an option, you know? It feels like you have to vote for the political party of his choice, which is cool, because, you know, they're like our Moseses. They took us out of Egypt. They really didn't teach me to hate, but they taught me that this is what happened. And they left it all up to me for me to decide, like, what I want to do with what happened. Because I was born in '86, so I don't really remember being chased by cops or being beaten by cops for being black or anything like that. But he taught me a lot about what happened, and he told me stories of how he got to prison because he didn't have a passport. He needed a passport to go, like, from place to place. Like, if you were gonna get out of Masi to the mall, you needed a passport, and if you were gonna go to the mall, you needed to go to the blacks only side, because it was all divided. If it's a shop, there'd be a side for white people and a side for black people, even in buses and in chairs and in beaches and everything. He just told me stories, and he left the deciding to me.
There are a lot of similarities between Nkeba and myself. The struggle against apartheid had great impact on the lives of both our fathers. That same source affected our lives too, being their sons. From an early age, I became committed to the message that turned out to be the higher goal of my father. And however much I support that cause, I feel that I have to make up my own mind about this higher goal and about what happened in this country.
Mr. Klerk, a warm welcome. What we are doing today is our journey of Parsifal, and we are trying together, my son and myself, to find the holy grail of connection. You're the first one who we are interviewing on this journey, and we would like to find the grail, what's connection? When I was a kid of 12 years old, I was reading the book Parsifal. And Parsifal had also the quest to find the Holy Grail. And I was really impressed by that book and also inspired by the book. And what I learned about this book, that naivety is extremely important. Because with naivety, if you stay a child, you solve problems. So I have always the feeling that I'm a little bit Parsifal. So I travel also all over the world and looking for all kinds of messages. I went to South Africa. I interviewed Chinese businessmen. I interviewed Dutch politicians. I interviewed so many people about connection. I always talk about connection. I always listen to stories of connection. I always read books about connection. That's my quest. If you are focused on together we build a brighter future, then there's always the question about connection. And for me it's important to really understand it, because if you understand something well, you can bring it back to a simple message and then you can inspire people.
Connection for me means taking hands, working together, organizing yourself behind common goals, and convincing more and more people to accept those common goals and to also strive for those common goals.
I'm very interested in one way, what would your message be to our leaders of our country and also to our youth in our country?
I think your country and all countries in the world must accept that globalization is a reality. That in more and more countries, they will develop important cultural or religious minorities who are there to stay, who are destined to become a permanent part of the greater society. And that the biggest challenge for the youth of today and for the leadership of today is to find new ways of managing diversity. So build bridges, do the connection across cultural or religious lines without giving away your own identity, but without asking of the other to sacrifice his or her own identity.
As a father, you influence your children. And on our kitchen table, we talk about connection. We talk about together we build a brighter future. So it's normal that a kid gets this message. And then it's important that it's not my message I bring in him. He has to find out himself. Is this my message? And that's why I am happy that Jip is going to make also trips to people and that he talks about life, what's important to life and what's connection. And then hopefully he will find his own message.
Connection is a positive force, if properly used.
To who you want to give us an introduction to make an interview like this and that we're finding the next step to the holy grail of connection?
Archbishop Desmond Tutu. But he is a great connector and a great communicator.
Salem and I agreed that I would do the next connection interview alone. So I'm thrilled by the suggestion of former President de Klerk. What an incredible honor to meet someone like Desmond Tutu. Moreover, the journey to South Africa gives me the opportunity to gain a more in-depth view of the country that played such a major part in my life, even though I grew up on the other side of the world. I want to see for myself the effects the power of connection caused, and how it helped to shape that brighter future South Africa so desperately longed for. My first stop is Robben Island. In this infamous place, I will meet a man who has no idea how much he has influenced me, my family, and the family company.
Hi. Thank you very much. Nice to meet you.
In 1986, I was asked to set up an internal communication system for the government. At that stage, the country was racked by unrest. There were riots, there were necklace murders, there were areas that were ungovernable, and the government had announced a very serious state of emergency. So it was a very, very bad time in South Africa's history. And at that time, the Department of Constitutional Development, that was trying to look for solutions, thought, well, what we need to do is we need an initiative to bring South Africans closer together. And they asked us as the communication agency to put together a campaign. And we put together a multimedia campaign that included open-air billboards, but also a song that was performed by leading vocalists from all our communities. And the idea was that if we could somehow get South African heroes, people who were popular in all communities, to sing a song together about let's join our hands together so we can build a brighter future, that it would help to start to create an environment in which we could negotiate about the future. But in fact, it was premature. We still weren't ready for that breakthrough. Nelson Mandela was still in prison. We still had the state of emergency underway. It created more animosity in many respects. Between various political groups, it was very strongly attacked by the ANC, by the UDF at that time. But it still resonated with ordinary people, because it articulated what ordinary people, ordinary South Africans wanted to do. They actually did want to join hands and build a brighter future.
South Africa needed patience, even more than it had already shown. Barriers like prejudice and fear took generations to overcome. So many elements had to be combined to build a solid foundation for change. The right time, the right circumstances, and most of all, the right people.
Only brave men will hold on to their beliefs and act accordingly, especially when the entire world watches their every move. Desmond Tutu never ceased his pursuit for a peaceful solution, despite the turmoil that surrounded him. Before my visit to him, I stopped by St. George Cathedral, where Desmond Tutu served as Archbishop. Here I have the opportunity to catch a glimpse of what he meant for the people during those violent and dangerous times.
Well, it caused a big stir. When he was elected Archbishop, his residence was supposed to be at Bishop's Court in Rondebosch, which means it's a white area, specifically for whites. And the government didn't want him to stay there because of the color of his skin. But he just went ahead and he stayed there. He said, if you don't want me here, chuck me out, put me in jail.
Wow.
But
That was a lot of courage.
a lot of courage. He just stayed there and he continues to become Archbishop. And there was a big change once he took over. Like before, with the apartheid government, you were too scared to talk to these people. You're scared you might say something wrong. Look, I'm 76 years old. I lived through the apartheid era. We were shut out of our houses several times because of the apartheid. But when Desmond Tutu became the first black Archbishop of Cape Town, we were free, and we knew it that we are free now. We can come and go as we like. This cathedral is a place of healing and hope.
I'm excited, and yes, slightly nervous about my upcoming meeting with Desmond Tutu. Being a Nobel Peace Prize winner, he is one of those rare people who use their talents to actually change the world for the better. And he did it during what can easily be described as the worst of times for South Africa. In that period, he did not waver in reminding all parties involved of their responsibilities, whether it was the government or the ANC. It makes me wonder what I would have done. Would I have been brave enough in a situation like that? As much as I want to know his vision of connection, I may be even more curious to know where he found the courage to intervene.
Imagine you are standing on the curbside with a little child. You are preparing to cross the road, and a big lorry comes driving very fast. And before you know what, this little child has jumped into the road in the path of this lorry. What do? You don't even think. You don't think, you just go whether you're going to succeed or not. You don't stop there and say, now, can I do this? Can I? I mean, almost all of us act instinctively. And many times, it wasn't because I was brave. It was just that is how almost all of us would have reacted at that particular time, instinctively, without thinking.
But still a lot don't.
Well, many do.
Yeah.
Just look at the number of young people in Egypt, in Tunisia, in Libya, people who almost know, I mean, that some of them are going to be killed. It still doesn't stop them.
Yeah.
You know, there is something in each of us. I mean, you think of Tiananmen Square in China, where they know, I mean, that they have a brutal government, and yet, remember that man who stood in front of the tank and made the tank change direction? He didn't succeed, but the person you and I admire so much is that young student who stood there. It made each one of us feel a little prouder, a little better for being a human being and was alive to see that.
Business can change the world. Politicians are not going to change the world. And I think my strength is more in entrepreneurship than in political behavior. So I created my own consultancy firm, always in mind, together we build a brighter future, because you can spread the message, together we build a brighter future, to the world. And if your own company and your own relationship with customer is not based on together we build a brighter future, you can't take yourself seriously. So for the first 5 to 10 years, I was really focusing and creating an environment where people can be true to themselves, that people get connected to other people, that people get connected to their customers, and that these customers, big companies, deliver value to their customers. Then you can go broader. Then you can say, I have a role to play in society. Every great company has a deeper cause, wants to fulfill needs of people, wants to fulfill needs of the world. So that's one important step. Second step is that of course you have to make money, because if you want to grow a company you have to make profits, and profits are extremely important in growing a company. But at a certain stage, if you have enough is enough. And then you go to say, what I'm going to do with the money I make. And then it's becoming even a deeper source of energy, because then you're not just working for yourself, you're working for a deeper cause, you're working for all your people, you're working for society. Because I think as a company and as a person, I have the obligation to spread that message.
The heart of our company is to inspire people to connect with themselves, with other people, with their work and with society. We initiate projects to show that connection can make a difference. We teach children in primary and secondary schools how to connect with themselves and others. We try to appeal to adults in books that will help them develop themselves. We create the right environment where people can meet and share thoughts to stimulate real change for them and for society. In that spirit, we organized the Day of Connection, where former President Klerk was our keynote speaker.
What factors helped us build a brighter future together? The first factor was the National Party government's realization that separate development, as we prefer to call apartheid, had failed and held no prospect whatsoever of bringing about a just and workable solution.
The need for change becomes obvious to everyone, including South Africa's political leaders. But introducing a just system in a country where inequality has been the standard for so long isn't an easy task. All other sounds, the different opinions and unwanted criticism have been silenced for many, many decades. Robben Island is a place the government would rather forget.
So we are really standing here in the old cell of Nelson Mandela, where he spent a lot of his life. How was it possible in South Africa that people did this to each other?
Well, it's a history that, we're all victims of our history. And one must remember that until the end of the Second World War, really till 1950, it was acceptable throughout the world, difficult to believe, that white people from Europe could rule black people and non-white people elsewhere. But then, of course, the world started to change. African countries became independent. And the initial response of white South Africans was, oh, well, we've got to change too. So if they can decolonize, then we'll decolonize as well. But we'll create these little states, one state for the Zulus, one state for the Xhosas, which was an illusion. There was no way that 80% black majority was going to be happy with 13.7% of the country. And then in 1978, P.W. Botha became Prime Minister, and he realized that something had to be done. We had to start to reform. So by 1986, the government had abolished about 100 apartheid laws. P.W. Botha obviously hadn't read de Tocqueville, and he didn't know that revolutions take place in situations of rising expectation. It's when you begin to reform that you find it very difficult to keep the lid on. And that's exactly what happened in South Africa. All of these things created wild expectations, very serious unrest in South Africa. And so in 1985, 1986, we had widespread riots and unrest, ungovernability in the country, and everybody in the rest of the world thought South Africa was about to implode. Yeah. But it didn't. And in this period, the National Party, the ruling party, realized that it was not possible to reform apartheid. We needed an entirely new dispensation. We would have to sit down around a negotiating table with all South Africans and work out a common destiny. It was a historic process. In this process, millions of people were humiliated, millions of people suffered. And the sad thing is that a man of Mandela's stature should have spent so many years in this little cell.
You know, in this country, when they were carrying out bad laws, vicious laws, like, detaining people for long periods in solitary confinement, in torturing them, we said, you know, in dehumanizing another, whether you like it or not, you in that process are also being dehumanized. I mean, when you think, say, of the people who were responsible for the Holocaust, something must be happening to them when they could put babies into gas chambers, into ovens. Their humanity was affected. And in this country, you have found too, many people suffering from mental illnesses, which came as a result of their having to carry out inhumane laws. And so I don't need to, I shouldn't be being praised when I'm just pointing out the obvious.
But someone has to speak up when nobody else can. With their leaders in exile, in prison or worse, the black community needs someone to plead their cause. And even though at first some of them are quite skeptical of what this little bishop can do, Desmond Tutu turns out to be a fierce defender of their struggle, always emphasizing that the fight should be a non-violent one. He travels the world in constant pursuit for justice and racial reconciliation, calling people worldwide to boycott South Africa economically while apartheid still exists. His efforts don't remain unnoticed. In 1984, he's granted the Nobel Peace Prize, a prize that opens doors for him. Even the most outspoken opponents of this investment can't ignore him any longer and are willing to at least listen to him. In his own country, he supports the peaceful actions of civil disobedience.
They had police, they had dogs, they had tear gas. To do what? To stop people from walking on God's beaches.
Tutu encourages non-violent demonstrations, not just leaving it up to the people to take the risk, but fearlessly marching with them. Most notably during the Cape Town Peace March, where he walks together with 30,000 people.
The city folk to join us in that march as we move towards freedom.
Were you there?
Yes. Yeah, it was fun. We really felt maybe the first signs of we could do things in our city.
Yeah.
As a person of color, I didn't have to have a pass, or I didn't have to have permission to walk here and unrestricted. So yeah, and there were lots of us. I mean, there was over 30,000 people.
Yeah.
So they couldn't, you know, the perception was they couldn't lock us all up.
I think we want to invite Mr. Klerk. We want to say, Mr. Klerk, hello. Just come here. You said you wanted to know whether we were going to be peaceful. Come here and see peaceful people.
And he brought a lot of humor in as well. So it was that type of humor and yet solemnness about his plea for justice and reconciliation.
Did that make also you as youth demonstrants also put down the stones?
Yeah, we felt the calmness. We felt that our leader was speaking the right type of language, not rhetoric and taking up arms and fighting, but passive, like he still does today. It's a gentle persuasion. It's non-confrontational, or maybe it is confrontation. It's a kind of fusion.
Now let us just show him that we are disciplined. Let's just keep quiet. Let's just keep quiet. Mr. de Klerk, did you hear a pin drop? We want to invite him and say, Mr. de Klerk, come and look at Technicolor. They try to make us one color purple. We say we are the rainbow people. We are the new people of the new South Africa. We say, hey, Mr. de Klerk, you have lost. You have already lost. We say, come and see. Now, I want you to hold hands. I want you to lift your hands. I want you to say, our march to freedom is unstoppable. Our march to freedom for all of us. South Africans, black and white. Mr. de Klerk, please come. Thank you.
At that time when I was in South Africa, I was convinced that this inner power, this inner source of these black people who wants to have their same rights and who wants to work for it, that the white people could never stop it. It was so crystal clear to me that together we built a brighter future. It was on the billboard, but it was more in the soul of the black people that they could never stop that. And if something is not right, one day or another it will stop.
We Africans have got something called Ubuntu. Mm-hmm. You may have heard of people speak about Ubuntu, which really is saying a person is a person through other persons. You can see, I mean, I can't be human in isolation. I would not know how to walk like a human being if I did not learn it from other human beings. I could not speak as a human being. I could not think as a human being. In fact, I could not be human without learning of it from others. And this Ubuntu says, you and I are created to live in a delicate network of interdependence. And you have to, you have to say God is really very smart, because we find now that it is not enough just to be connected and be one, as an individual, or even to be connected just to people. We have to have a relationship with our environment. And that is why just now people are saying, if we do not treat the environment properly, we are going to suffer. And so you see, God worked it out in such a way that for us to be able to live happily means living peacefully, harmoniously with other human beings, living harmoniously, peacefully with the rest of God's creation, because we are connected.
So according to Desmond Tutu, we humans have a natural urge for connection. We simply must connect. It's in our nature. And more than that, it's our task in life. It's quite understandable that a former Archbishop regards connection as a God-given message. But Desmond Tutu isn't the only one who senses spirituality in connection.
There's no question that there was spirituality involved. It was rational, but we had an option. We could have stayed on. So we had a choice. It was a willful choice to say, no, we need to change. We need to change because if we took the other route of hanging on to the old policy and the old South Africa, it would have ended in catastrophe. I became convinced of that. I also became convinced, and this is where spirituality came in, that we had failed through the old system of nation states, which was what I supported when I was young, to bring justice to the black people of South Africa. So doing what is right, also in terms of moral definition, played a more important role than the pressures and the pragmatic realities which we had to deal with. It was, for me, the driving force to change the wrong to right.
Not long after his election, President F.W. de Klerk announces some remarkable decisions, starting with the legalization of important anti-apartheid movements.
The prohibition of the African National Congress, the Pan-Africanist Congress, the South African Communist Party, and a number of subsidiary organizations is being rescinded.
But in order to implement real change, he knows he will need the help of the very same man who was considered an enemy of the state for so many years.
I am now in a position to announce that Mr. Nelson Mandela will be released at the Victor Verster prison on Sunday, the 11th of February.
Our leader has come out and is coming out tomorrow. Hallelujah! Hallelujah!
There are many similarities between his approach to life and my approach to life. He's also a lawyer by training. At our very first meeting, where we didn't discuss anything of substance, we were just feeling each other out. And later he wrote in his autobiography, as I did in mine, after that first meeting, we jointly came to the conclusion, I feel I can trust this man. That trust was later on put under severe pressure because mainly of ongoing violence. So we had bad moments as well. But that basic underlying realization that if we could not find a way to take hands, the whole process would stumble. We always could rise above those tensions.
Well, what was this deep connection? Because there you had really deep connection. You were two persons, both a lot of power, a lot of pressure on both of your shoulders, a lot of emotions. Everything was there, and there was that deep connection. What?
I think he accepted and believed that I wanted to change things fundamentally in South Africa. And I accepted and believed that he was prepared to compromise and to accommodate the fears and the concerns of my people. So there was a basic acceptance of each other's integrity with regard to the greater goal. And there was an element of that we shared a common goal with each other, namely a peaceful transition to a new system which would be fully democratic and in which the rule of law would prevail. We found that we could connect with people we had regarded as enemies. During the negotiations, we succeeded in breaking down the very negative stereotypes that we had developed of one another during decades of conflict and division. We discovered, by connecting, that all of us often had similar hopes for the future, although we continue to differ about how we should achieve the goal of a better and a brighter future.
The deep connection between both men leads to some remarkable events that will change the course of history forever. They too are granted the Nobel Peace Prize for their efforts to move South Africa from a deeply polarized nation towards a truly democratic society. A year later, in 1994, the first free elections are in effect. An important step for the same people who up until then were without any rights at all. That is why during his inauguration, Nelson Mandela makes an important promise.
Never, never, and never again shall it be that this beautiful land will again experience the oppression of one by another.
However hopeful these words of Mr. Mandela may sound, today connection still isn't a given fact. We continuously have to strive for it. My trip has given me many new insights. Apartheid has done a lot of damage in South Africa, and it's up to the coming generations to keep building bridges. Both Nkeba and I are aware that we have to take our responsibility like every individual in our generation. So much has been achieved, but still a lot needs to be done. That much is clear to me when he gives me a tour around his township.
So with how many people do they live in such a house? Is it?
8 is a really minimum number. Normally, you have more than that. You know, when people don't have options, it's like, what else can you do?
It's something, huh?
Yeah. And illegal wiring. You get it all over, all these legal wires of electricity.
They tap it off of the...
Oh man, even I get lost in here. But the past wasn't that great, you know. Learned a lot of things through it. It seems like the kids today don't really know what happened, or they're avoiding to talk about it, or they just don't care about it.
What did you learn about it?
I learned about like the fact that life sometimes will not be fair, and it's not about how you finish or you start the race, but it's how about you finish it. And I know it was hard and there was a lot of racial tension, But I learned that that doesn't mean because we didn't get along, like the Afrikaans and the black people didn't get along. That doesn't mean that it has to stay like that, you know?
Yeah.
It means that it's just the bad start. We can continue with the race from a different way. Like gold goes through the fire before it gets to be perfect. And gold cannot be perfect unless it goes through the fire. It was just more a time for us to go through that so we can get to grow from hardships. Yeah, in some places there is a lot of tension still. I know there's places where you go and you can feel a lot black, or there's a lot of places where you can feel a lot white when you go to. Like you guys, you would never be able to just walk by yourselves here. You would get robbed, you know, for your positions, or you just get attacked because you're different, because people don't know you and don't understand you. So that's why I'm saying it's always about understanding. Yeah, if we don't understand each other, we always want to take something from each other, or you don't want to give, but we want to take. And slowly we're getting together, you know, and it's not happening yet, but it's slowly happening. It's slowly coming together, and I think it's going to take more time.
Back to Robben Island. Before my journey comes to an end, there's one more thing I need to do.
About 20 years ago, my father visited also South Africa, and that was the time when he saw also this Together We Build a Brighter Future sign and made that really as his own higher goal. He thought that must be the thing where I lead my life to. And well, this was 1.5 years ago when we placed also in Soweto this sign.
Fantastic.
How does it feel for you that somebody picked that message up and also really went his own way with it?
It's gone full circle, and you know what started as the right idea has become a reality. Together we did build a brighter future, and in life nothing is ever really solved, and our challenge is to continue to go on building a brighter future together.
Every generation needs its own Tutus, the Klerks and Mandelas, who will take responsibility and give the world its best in order to achieve and preserve that brighter future. And every generation needs to make this message, this plea for connection its own, without being held back by history, but able to rise above the past instead and use it as an inspiration.
Only people who are not quite normal will want to withdraw. Most of us realize, that we need other people in order for us to be the people we can be. When we are aware of our need of the other, I think we begin to be people who realize revenge destroys not just your enemy, it destroys you too. When you are angry, your blood pressure goes up. So forgiving is not just doing something nice for that other person, it's good for your health.
you. Maybe not now, but I'll write it down.
One more time.
It's very easy. Anyone can say
does
it.
it mean?
It means a skunk is rolling down a hill. You know a skunk?
A skunk?
The smelly little animal.
Oh.
Yeah, it's rolling down a hill and broke its neck. It's very easy. It's just.
Can you say it one more time here?
It's. Anyone can say it.